we've never really told the truth of Australia. It's not a story of the past 200 years. It's a story that is tens of thousands of years.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TBN. Dave, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, Sheikh.
So today we want to dive into a particular topic. You might have heard some politicians talk about Judeo-Christian values. Tony Abbott, in a recent video, he said that Australia's foundation is Judeo-Christian and that we've been overwhelmingly a British society.
But when all is said and done, Aboriginal people are less than 4% of our population.
You'd have to say, though, that I think we've been overwhelmingly a British society.
The vast majority of contemporary Australian historiography obsesses over Indigenous issues. Our foundational ethos remains, as I hope it always will, Judeo-Christian.
That's a bit to unpack there, isn't it, Sheikh?
There is. First of all, there's no doubt of the British influence in Australian society. Historically, we're going to go into that, but was that the only influence?
Exactly. Yeah.
And secondly, the term Judeo-Christian.
Yeah.
Where does this originate from? That's what we want to look into.
Yep. And it might be interesting to note that hopefully today we uncover if there's been any pre-European or pre-Christian influence on Australia.
That'll be an interesting topic because those other influences also have a right to be mentioned in the discourse of Australian history.
100%. And recognised as well.
Recognised. Yeah. Let's be honest here. Let's not sweep anything under the carpet.
Whitewash anything.
Yeah. Look, for the majority of history, until quite recently, Jews have been persecuted by the Christians.
Yep.
Look, when the Romans embraced Christianity, Constantine the emperor, I think he accepted Christianity. From that time onwards, Jews were persecuted by the Christians. In the past, they've been called as Christ killers.
Yep.
Anti-Semitism originated in Europe.
Yep. So the first anti-Semites then, Sheikh, were Christians, is that?
Yeah, that
correct?
is correct.
Wow, okay.
It's a anti-Semitism originated in Europe and it was exported from Europe. Now, Jews in Christian Europe faced a lot of discrimination. They were made to live separately in ghettos. They were subject to assaults, violent assaults, which they called pogroms. They weren't given any positions. Even at the time when Australia was being settled by Europeans, the Jews were still suffering from Christian abuse. They didn't have their civil rights in Christian Europe in many places.
Yep. An interesting point, Sheikh, as well, is especially in Muslim-ruled Spain, when the Spanish conquistadors came down and they pushed everyone else out, including the Muslims and the Jews and even some Christian factions together. The Muslims at the time took the Jews with them to Morocco, I believe. Is that correct? As a safe haven?
Yes, definitely. They did go to Morocco. And also the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, he literally sent ships there.
Wow.
To bring the Jews out of Spain.
To save the Jews.
Give them a safe haven in Muslim lands.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. But let's unpack this term Judeo-Christian. It's as if these two religions have always been partners in creating Western values, That's simply not accurate. It's glossing over much of their painful history. And I think we should be as truthful as we can when we're looking at history. So where did this term Judeo-Christian come from, if that's the case? Initially, it was in the 1930s and 40s, the term Judeo-Christian was coined to combat anti-Semitism from the Nazis and also to combat their propaganda that all races apart from the Aryan race are inferior. So the Judeo-Christian term was coined at that time to combat Nazi ideology, to push back against it.
That's an interesting point there, Shaq. So it's during around the World War II time,
Around that.
when Hitler was in power and doing what he was doing.
So then afterwards, when America was formed, and then you had the Soviet threat in the 70s, communism. So again, it was used. It evolved from being used to combat, Nazi Germany, to combating the threat of communism, because it would unite the three main factions in the US. You had the Protestants and the Catholics, and they were at war with one another for centuries.
Long time.
And then you had the Jews. So when they used the term Judeo-Christian, this unified these three large groups, and it was used to unify them against the Soviet threat. So, but today, it's being used since the 1970s or so by mostly the conservative right-wing politicians to try and use it to determine Western identity.
Yes. So it started off as an anti-Nazi slogan.
Correct.
But it seemed to have been adapted by the far rights as a slogan that they use.
It's evolved through three different phases, you could say.
Yeah.
The first phase was to combat Nazi Germany. The second phase was to combat the Soviets, communism.
Communism, yep.
And now it's being used to promote Western identity. But here's the irony. Judaism was not created in the West. Neither was Christianity. Jesus was from Palestine.
Exactly.
So it's got nothing to do with the West if you want to look at it from a technical point of view. It's just not, it's historically inaccurate.
Yeah.
Secondly, if you want to look at it from a religious perspective, okay, you've got Jews, Judaism, Christianity. Why not Islam? Because they're all three Abrahamic religions, yeah? So they're using it to exclude Muslims and Islam, when in reality it shouldn't be the case.
Exactly.
If you're talking about from a religious perspective. Then.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good point, Shaq. And all three of the main religions, Islam, Christianity and Judaism, are Abrahamic faiths. So realistically, there should be a collective. If you're going to group them together, it would be the three main.
Yeah. Then what does Judaism, we're talking about Orthodox Judaism, the religious tenets of Judaism, what do they have common with Christianity?
Up until Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, after that, there's no more.
Yeah. I mean, the Jews, they circumcise. Who circumcises today?
The Muslims still, Sheikh.
Jews don't eat pork.
The Muslims don't eat pork.
Jews have to eat kosher, slaughtered by the permission of God, in the name of God. That's a halal process. Halal process.
Yeah.
Basically, the laws of Judaism, many aspects of it are similar to Islam.
Even though there is a passage in the Bible where it says that Jesus did not come to change one tittle of the law.
Well, Christianity follows the Pauline version of Christianity.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
St. Paul, who'd never met Jesus.
Never met him.
He basically changed the whole religion. He claimed to have seen him in a vision. And then he'd done away with many aspects of the law. And there was some tension between him and Peter.
And the disciples. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, we won't go into that. This is not about Christianity. But let's go back to the history of Australia. Now, okay, if Tony Abbott was to say, I mean, I'm not going to use the term Judeo-Christian because it's historically incorrect. The meaning doesn't make sense because they're both Middle Eastern religions, nothing to do with the West. Last time I looked on the map, Palestine is not, and that whole area, if you want to call it even Israel, or the Palestine. That whole area, I don't think it's in Europe, is it?
I don't believe so. I believe it may have seen an influx of European Sheikh. You're trying to claim that land.
Oh, European Jews, you mean?
Yes.
Ashkenaz.
Unfortunately, yes.
Anyway, well, let's get back to Australian history. So Tony Abbott claims that, he did mention Indigenous cultures there, but I think he conveniently left out two very important parts of history.
Yeah, great point, Sheikh. And the two very important parts that Sheikh has mentioned actually have deep Islamic roots of Islam coming to Australia and predating Christianity on the Australian shore, Sheikh.
Wow.
Yes.
Predating Christianity.
Predating Christianity for at least 500 years, it looks like.
Talking about Makassans.
The Makassans from Indonesia. So these Indonesian sailors, Sheikh, they would sail down from Indonesia, usually once a year around the monsoon season.
Okay.
They would stay for up to 4 months at a time, and they would harvest the sea cucumber.
Yes, they called it the trapang.
Trapang,
The local indigenous people in Arnhem Land used that word or similar, a variant of it in their language.
derived from the Makassan
Language, sea cucumbers.
Yeah.
So apparently they spent a few months at a time, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so up to about 4 months at a time. They would come once a year, and they would harvest the sea cucumbers on the northern Australian shores, Arnhem Land.
Wow.
Yep, and they would go back to Indonesia with the sea cucumbers and then sell them onto the international market.
So they were trading with the indigenous people.
Yep.
Muslims came to this land. So you're saying even before the Dutch?
Yes.
The Dutch preceded the British, didn't they?
Yes,
Because they
correct.
didn't stay.
Yeah.
Then the British came.
Yep.
And what did they do?
Unfortunately, Sheikh, that is a part of the dark history, but the realities.
You can imagine why the many indigenous people are upset and they don't want to celebrate Australia Day because of that reason.
You can see why.
Yeah, I know we have to all move on and we're all
Yeah.
part of one fabric of the Australian society now.
100%.
But we can understand why they would feel that.
You can see the sensitivity around the celebration of the day.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. And then you can also imagine like many places in Australia, they nearly became extinct, like in Tasmania.
Yes.
You can say most of the indigenous people of Tasmania became extinct. Wiped out completely.
And even locally, Rottnest Island was a place where they would take the Aborigines to unfortunately unalive them.
I mean, to actually eliminate them.
Yeah, unfortunately.
A lot of injustices. A lot of it may not have even been recorded in history.
Yeah, that's right.
Has been recorded and documented.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on from this. So Muslims came from Indonesia and they didn't steal the land,
Exactly.
kill the people.
Exactly. So
I thought we were the barbarians. I thought we were the ones that spread Islam with the sword.
Exactly. So it goes against that whole narrative of Islam just wants to...
Because they didn't use swords. They used like gunpowder. But maybe that makes it justified. It's a bit like today, isn't it? Where you have
what's happening.
regimes using, the high-powered technology, weapons, jet fighters, and wiping out. But a terrorist with a knife it makes the headlines.
Yeah, that's
Or wiping out an entire population, ethnically cleansing them, committing a genocide.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit the category of barbarism because the people are what? Westerners and they're white?
Yeah,
they're white. Oh, okay.
Yeah, from Europe.
So I guess I'm the wrong colour, but you should. So they traded with them. They would have brought over a lot of Indonesian products.
Yeah, yep.
And it would have injected a lot of life into those islands or those remote areas of Arnhem Land.
Yep.
Because in those days you're talking about like for the last how many years?
Yeah, almost 500 years, or at least 500 years.
And how can you prove that at least 500 years?
That's a good question, Sheikh. So there's been some cave paintings that have been discovered.
I've been brought to a site which is said to be more than 3,000 years old. At this site, there is a painting of a 2-meter prow.
Yep.
Displaying the Makassan sailing ships.
Yep. In detail. I've seen it in great detail.
Yeah, wasn't it?
It's distinctively, it's a Makassan ship.
It is, definitely. Yeah. And actually, I learnt this from that documentary, Sheikh, before
770. That was produced and directed by Sheikh Wissam Chakawi, and I've watched it also. It's amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing. You know, one of the things that I noticed, one of the thing that really touched me was how much the locals, the indigenous people of Arnhem Land, till this day, welcomed the Muslims.
That's right.
Yeah, and that means they had such a positive impact. They were in tears when their relatives, which we're going to talk about, when their relative Hussein came. Yeah, and he was brought all the way from Indonesia to the other side of his family.
Reunited.
Yeah,
Incredible.
So they brought in they allowed employment opportunities.
Yeah, that's right.
Aboriginals.
Yeah.
They would have also gave them, an opportunity to barter and trade with Indonesian goods.
Yeah.
And you've got tamarind trees there.
Yes, that's correct.
And not local to Australia.
No, that's right. So a lot of rice, spices, some Asian delicacies as well were bought and traded with the Aboriginal people. Yeah. But it doesn't stop there, Sheikh.
Yeah.
It wasn't just trade. So they also intermarried and intermingled with the local Aboriginal people of Australia.
Yeah, that film was amazing. They even showed them saying their own version of salawat, sallallahu, and salli ala Muhammad, and on the way they said Allah and Muhammad.
Yes.
And they aboriginalized it, but you can hear that, quite clearly, Allah and Muhammad. So even aspects of their religion taken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an incredible story, Sheikh, and one that also highlights the point that the Muslim prayer was offered on Australian soil, performed on Australian soil, long before the Christian prayer.
So Judeo-Christian, where does that come in? How after?
And this is when you look at Judeo-Christian values. Well, what were their values that the Europeans brought?
Well, they versus alcohol, and they're completely
Disease,
stolen generations. I mean, how many countries does that happen to? We're talking Australia. What else can you?
New Zealand,
Native America, in Americas.
You got the North America, South America, Canada. Just to name a few.
That's just those settler colonial states where the Europeans settled. But you've got a list of other countries that were colonized.
Yes.
The people were murdered, their resources were raped and taken. And then eventually, they came under the Commonwealth. I'm talking about places like India, Egypt, and many other places. Algeria, the colonizers came there, the French.
Sorry, have there.
I mean, I really think the West is in no position to lecture other people about human rights and to label other people as barbarians.
When terrorists, we look at the track record speaks for itself. Yeah, subhanAllah. So when the Indonesians, the Makassans came to Australia, they didn't come to replace the current culture, wipe out the current culture, take over the land. That wasn't their modus operandi. They wanted to come and trade with the Aboriginal people, intermingle, intermarry, let them still have their way of life and have an open relationship with them that lasted for it's at least 500 years, Sheikh. At least, subhanAllah.
And, because of that relationship, I'm sure Muslims, if they went there, had be welcome, as can be seen on the film.
Yes.
And it was genuine acceptance and love.
Yeah.
It wasn't this, fake pretense.
Yeah.
It was genuine bonding that they had with the Muslim community, because you remember when Australia stopped it, it was before the Federation. So when whatever colony stopped the trade, made them to have, imposed permits on them and made
first it was
not.
That's right, yeah. First it was permits. So the Makassans had to apply for permits and have them approved. And then after a certain amount of time, they just said you could no longer trade anymore. They just stopped that centuries-old trade and relationships, and like you were saying, that bond, it just ceased like a light switch, unfortunately.
Difficult it would have been for the Aboriginals.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
because they would have been looking forward. They would have been waiting at the shores. The monsoon season has come.
Looking for the ships.
Brothers going come from Indonesia. Inject a bit of life. Bring products and goods.
Exactly.
See our family members.
Exactly right.
To marry.
Yes. Yeah. That's an important point there, Sheikh, is that some Aboriginals that travelled back to Indonesia on the last fleet before the trade was stopped, they were never able to come back to Australia. So they stayed in Indonesia away from their families.
Yeah, wow.
SubhanAllah.
So that's prior to Captain Cook.
Yeah.
Prior to the Dutch, Muslims were here.
Exactly.
Why did they tell us go back to your own country as if they were before us?
I know, Sheikh. This is a catchphrase, isn't it, that they throw around?
Yeah. I think we belong here just as much as anyone else.
Exactly right. And us Muslims, we should be proud of that history. We should be proud of that heritage land. That's right.
Correct. The other thing that I want to ask you about is after colonization, when the Europeans came, the British came.
Yep.
Were there other Muslim influences after colonization?
That's a good point, Sheikh. Yeah, there was. So predominantly this group of people were labelled as the Afghan Cameleers, but they were from a broad range of countries, from India, from Pakistan, even some from Persia and modern-day Iran. And they were brought here with camels in order to try and bring some development and some technology, help them to build up Australia to what we know now. So telephone lines, rail lines, that sort of
telegraph
thing.
lines.
Telegraph lines, yep. Supplies.
I mean, nothing covers the barren desert, which is most of Australia's landscape.
Yep.
Nothing does that better than the camels.
Exactly.
So they brought in the camels, and then they would have realised, well, we don't know how to manage Indian people.
They're a different beast.
Really. So they brought a lot of people, and these people, they built mosques everywhere.
Yeah, that's right, Sheikh.
I was watching a video about the mosque in Broken Hill. I've been there twice.
Oh,
Back in my younger days when we used to travel around Australia. Yeah. That was an old mosque that's no longer active.
Oh, wow, okay.
Perth Mosque and Adelaide Mosque.
Yep.
Adelaide being the older of the two. Adelaide, the oldest active mosque in Australia, and Perth Mosque second.
Oh, wow.
Perth Mosque was 1905. Adelaide was, I think, 1889.
And the Perth Mosque, correct me if I'm wrong, was built by the Cameleers, Sheikh, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right Allah.
So they built mosques everywhere. They done a lot of, they worked hard. Burke's and Wheels expedition.
Yes.
And all the travelling in the remote areas, sending supplies, who would have done the hard work? Who would have done the dirty work? Who would have woken up early in the morning, packed the camels, got everything ready? But history doesn't acknowledge them, Australian history. Did you learn about the Cameleers, primary school or high school?
I didn't learn about the Cameleers or the Makassans.
It was, not at all. The history is written by the victor.
Yes, that is correct. There's an important phrase, Sheikh, that they use for the Cameleers is that they conquered the desert with compass and Quran.
Wow.
Subhanallah. Yeah. So they were far away from their homelands, away from their families.
Wow.
But they didn't stray from their faith, their identity and who they were.
Yeah, it's amazing. So being away from their families would have been hard for young men working hard. So eventually they got married to the locals here?
Yeah, they did actually intermingle as well with the locals.
With most indigenous people?
With indigenous, yes, that's right.
Yeah, there might have been a few that married with the Europeans, but by and large, I think because you have a lot of indigenous people with the surnames Muhammad and Khan.
Yes.
And not all of them are Muslims.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of their time, Yeah. But they originally... great-grandparents were Muslims.
Yeah, subhanAllah. And when they came here, Sheikh, they didn't try and overturn the government or enforce Islam or anything on anyone else. They just came here and worked.
They worked damn hard.
And honest for what they were employed to do.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
And remember, they came at a time it wouldn't have been easy.
Yeah.
Why? Because that was during the White Australia policy.
Yeah, that's right. So in early 1900s, there was two factors that unfortunately influenced them in a negative way, the Cameleers, and that was the invention of the motor car and then the Immigration Act. So both sort of unfortunately led to an end of the Cameleers and what they were brought here to do in Australia, unfortunately.
And I remember some of them that had to go back with their children who are half Aboriginal.
Yes.
And they had to fight legally to come back.
Yeah, that's right.
Which eventually they were. Like I know some families that are from that lineage.
Wow.
Yeah, but their grandmothers, great-grandmothers had to fight to come back to Australia. Wow. Indigenous people having to get permission to come back to their own country.
Only a European settlers colony could think of that, Sheikh.
Yeah, it's just Tony Abbott seems to neglect those other influences.
Yeah, good point.
And that's disappointing.
Yes.
So who is Tony Abbott anyway? He's an ex-Prime Minister of Australia?
Prime Minister.
You got
outside the party and things.
Yeah. And then he was relegated to the backbench.
Backbench.
And he promised no sniping, no backbiting, no stabbing in the back. And what happened?
Look what happened. Yeah.
Judeo-Christian values.
Apparently, Sheikh. Is that?
I'm not sure.
Is that what
left to us?
They're bringing? Yeah. I think now he's more involved with his book release or something like that, and that's why he's
making a self-made historian now, is it?
Trying to, He's trying to reinvent himself. So
okay, well, you have to get yourself occupied somehow.
So we, as Muslims, Sheikh, we should know our history. We should be proud of our heritage and what our forefathers that came to Australia as Muslims, what they achieved and the legacy that they left. And this should be a talking point for us,
yes,
with Muslims and non-Muslims alike, is to say, hey, this is maybe a side of history, of Australian history, that you're not aware of.
Yeah. So next time they tell you to go back to your own country, tell them we were here before you, and we didn't make a mess. We didn't massacre the people here.
Exactly. Yeah, subhanAllah.
How intriguing.
Yeah.
We encourage everyone to watch that,
Yep.
if you can, that documentary before 1770.
Yep.
And you can also look up the Cameleers. There's heaps of content on YouTube.
YouTube is a great resource for that sort of thing. Yeah, subhanAllah. And at the Balanced Narrative as well.
Balanced Narrative. Don't forget to subscribe and help us to promote our channel so that we can combat the negative propaganda of the mainstream media who have sold themselves out to the lobbies.
Yes, yeah.